Is it time to start worrying about Halo Infinite, and is 343 a really bad place to work, and is there some systematic issues that need to be addressed at 343 Industries? We're going to discuss all this in today's video. I'm trying to stay as optimistic as possible and really just give you guys my take on this whole situation, because if you guys have already seen or heard, Rich of Review Tech USA did a video basically showing off all these Glassdoor reviews from the website Glassdoor, where you can basically submit a company you worked for and do a review on them, and then it's anonymous so that you keep it anonymous, so you don't have to worry about people coming after you for your opinion. But a lot of employees or former employees of 343 have been saying pretty negative things, and it's with the whole graphics debate and how Halo Infinite looked after the gameplay reveal, of course people are putting two and two together, saying this is why it looks like this game is in trouble, blah 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 blah. And then on top of that, Rich of Review Tech USA, he has a source, an inside source that he says is very reliable, and he goes to for a lot of his Xbox information, and they haven't let him down in the past. Now, I don't have a source. I don't have somebody who I can go to for information on a regular and I can trust. I have heard things though. Having a source is about as believable as me telling you guys right now, hey, I have a source and they say everything's great and Infinite's gonna be the best Halo ever. I could do that too, so I don't buy much into the source things. Brad Sams has a source who said that multiplayer wasn't shipping with Halo Infinite, and 343 shot that out the sky almost immediately. So I didn't really want to talk about any of that kind of stuff. I just want to offer my discussions, and hopefully you guys get in on the discussion too. Leave a comment down below, let me know what you guys think. There has been a lot of negativity in the community lately. Maybe it's a vocal minority, who knows? That's usually what it is with the Halo fan base. There's a lot of people who are very vocal about their displeasure. I try to kind of keep it even, when it goes. I try to see both sides of things, and we're going to go over both sides here in this video. Now, as you guys can see here, overall 343 Industries is rated as a 3.4, and then it's kind of dipped over time. It's gotten more negative as time has gone on. We know 343 does a bunch of contracting. It's a thing at Microsoft. They do it with all their studios, I believe, really. There's a bunch of contractors who come in, work on the game, and then they're let go however long later, and they don't really get to see the finished product, the thing that they've been working on, which kind of sucks, and it's different from other big time corporations, big time studios. So I could see where there could be a lot of disgruntled employees, people who are not happy with their time there. And that's why I don't buy too much into this stuff, but some of the things they're saying definitely need to be talked about, I think, because a lot of it is similar to one another. Now let's start with the first review from October 14th of 2019. The pros. People there are the best, kindest, and coolest I've ever worked with in or out of the tech industry. It's a fun, relaxing environment. There's great conversation, interesting people, low pressure, and a laid-back feel. Schedules are flexible. People work from home often and or shift hours around whenever they need to, and no one complains. I've worked for 10-hour days to get a Friday off, worked on a Saturday when I knew I couldn't come in Monday, stayed late after coming in late, etc. 343 doesn't make a distinction between contractor and full-time employee, which I can't say about all of Microsoft. Everyone who works there, end of story. Everyone is included, given free stuff, invited to all events, and asked to give feedbacks on the games. That's great. They're doing some amazing stuff with their new game design and pushing their tech forward. Getting to work on Halo every day feels awesome, and what they're doing with the franchise is exciting. Now the cons. There's a lot of tech debt. The engine is old and cumbersome, and so are the workflows. They've been working on it, but they're not where they need to be yet, and I'll talk more on that later. The game they're trying to make is too ambitious for their current time and tools. They've scoped it down quite a lot, but still predict a lot of crunch coming up for most folks on the production side around milestones. Things are broken, and there are days when getting work done is a challenge. They're iterating on their processes, but it's going to take time. It feels like people leave a lot. With Microsoft's policy on contractors, some revolving door action is expected, but even senior full-time people and directors come and go fairly often. I think they just get burned out. It's not super good for morale, and it's really hard to get hired or converted to full-time. They typically don't have many openings because of the Microsoft rules. Advice to management: baby steps. Don't try to bite off more than you can chew. And we've seen that with 343. couple of people have left, like Tim Longo, creative director, left. Back then I said I'm not really that worried about it, and I'm still more on the positive side of things than the pessimistic side as far as Halo Infinite is concerned, but we'll get more on that when we talk about the positive side of things later in the video. So that was a 4-star review. Actually not bad. This one is a 1-star. This person worked at 343 Industries for more than a year. This is from July 26 of 2019. Pros: there's some genuinely smart people there, both with backgrounds from other game studios and from within Microsoft. You're technically a part of Microsoft with all the potential perks that come with that. The cons: absolutely awful buildup / repo issues. Tests would fail at random and the build was broken more often than not, leading to things being locked down. This only caused people to mass submit their changes once things were unlocked, leading to a vicious cycle of things working for just a few hours at a time before things were locked again. I've seriously had month-old submissions that I had to sit on, delaying further work that touched the same files. Massive, awful code base, but that's kind of common for this sort of studio. Really heavy use of contractors. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if there's more than a third of the programmers that are hourly, and I assume the ratio for artist designers is even worse. For every genuinely talented person, there's a dozen vendors or senior programmers that don't know even the basics of the tech that they're using, and there's zero investment in improving that. Zero accountability as far as I can tell. The same people have been in upper management for ages, despite games being poorly received and the studio itself being a mess. And the build is constantly being broken by bad check-ins without any consequences. Not enough restrooms. Seems like a weird thing to point out, but when you usually need to go to a neighboring building to find a free stall, that is a problem. Advice to management: take responsibility for the disaster that you've created and step down. Honestly, I don't know if this can even be salvaged at this point, short of just tearing everything down and letting a new team rebuild things. Next review says, I've been working at 343 for full time for more than a year. They rated them a 1. The pros: there are some incredibly talented people working at 343. The product is interesting, challenging, and it is a beloved franchise. Cons: it's toxic. On the surface, it seems like a good place, but once you spend time here, it's clear to see you've entered a very hostile, cutthroat environment. If you enjoy that, then you'll thrive. If you don't, you'll need to plan your exit wisely. The positive values of respect, integrity, diversity, and inclusion that Microsoft touts do not filter down to 343. I've never worked in such a toxic, aggressive environment before and am astounded that it has become this bad. Think twice about this place. Advice to management: do some serious self-reflection and decide what kind of gaming studio you want to be. A place where people thrive and want to stay to build incredible things, or a place where people get torn down and bide their time to get Halo on their resume. Now that one was from February 22nd of 2020. This one is from February 20th of 2020. So these are more recent. And this is the last kind of negative one I'm going to go over. Then we'll go over some positive ones. Like I said, I like to focus on both sides. So this one was rated a 2.0 and called an ad hoc catastrophe. So this person worked at 343 for less than a year. Pros: very skilled people and delightful people working at 343. You see the common pattern here. So now onto the cons. That was the only pro that they listed. It's shocking how an organization with Microsoft's resources has been around as long as 343 and could still be so dysfunctional. 343 has serious systematic issues that will take a massive effort to correct. Some of these stem from Microsoft policies, more on that in a bit, but also from executives that seem badly out of touch with their team. It definitely feels as though the higher-ups at 343 don't understand how their studio is doing in day-to-day operations, and worse, seem concerned only with pleasing their superiors at Microsoft corporate instead of being advocates for the studio and its workers. This means not pushing back on unreasonable deadlines or demands from corporate. The obvious primary cause for many of 343 problems lies with its over-reliance on contractual labor, as others have mentioned. This appears to be a policy within all of Microsoft, but is especially damaging to a game studio. Firstly, there's a lack of continuity, which is a recipe for a bloated, hacked-together project, as devs have to quickly learn systems that were created or modified by their predecessors, most of whom no longer work at the company, and to make hasty changes as they have only 18 months or less to get their work done. Second, as others have mentioned, there is nothing more detrimental to morale and work ethics than a lack of investment, as many devs won't be seeing the project they're working on through to the end. And since so few contractors are converted, it's easy to see how, in combination with the first point, how this might lead to bad habits. Expediency is overfavored at the expense of sustainability. Speaking of, there's the tech debt, which is probably better summarized as technical bankruptcy. In 343's case, a now decades-old swollen codebase littered with thousands of duct tape fixes and a development infrastructure so flimsy that it more frequently hurts productivity than helping it. There were times when their entire studio was unable to check in new code or content for weeks. Communication is absolutely atrocious at 343. The primary channel for communicating to folks is email, which also gets populated with hundreds of automated messages a day, creating a terrible signal to noise ratio, and as such, many people just will never respond to it. Without any quality options as official policy, it meant that if you wanted to get in touch with someone, you had to find out what means or service they use, and everyone uses different things. Combined with the high attrition rate mentioned above, this also means that as a new employee, you have to navigate this wilderness in order to talk to collaborators or clients, and frequently have to cold call workers to get work done. Crunch, an overcrowded and noisy work environment. If you're someone who has difficulty working with people constantly moving around your workspace or have trouble focusing with loud ambient noise, good luck. As far as their advice to management, teams get better the longer they stay together. Prioritize keeping your staff and also keeping them happy. Stop relying on contractors so much, as not only will you get better work from people who are secure and invested in the studio, you will free up a lot of time and effort that your exiting full-time devs have to use recruiting replacements. Conduct exit interviews for all employees to find out what things are ailing your organization. I think that's a really smart idea. Make long-term investments into getting your code base and infrastructure right so that they are durable, easily extendable, and conducive to a good practice rather than patchwork development. I would personally recommend starting from scratch. There's far too much detritus to manage at this point. It would minimize the amount of project that is owned by devs who had no say in its development. Find an effective in-house communication solution and enforce its use. Better facilities with the ability to accommodate effective work environments for a wide variety of people. Eliminate crunch and take responsibility for using it. Crunch is a failure of your management. If you can't find ways around it, you should consider another job. Now let's talk about some of the things that they talked about. A lot of the common things were talk about management being mismanaged and that from the top down things need to change. And it's really weird because if you go back on Glassdoor now, for whatever reason, it wouldn't let me look at the previous, all the other reviews, like the more positive ones. For some reason, it led to a dead link when you click more reviews. It does this for a couple other companies that I looked into as well. So it's not just 343, but it seemed like a lot of people back when the studio first started, back in, like not even when it first started, but during Halo 5, during MCC, during Halo 4, a lot of people were very complimentary towards management. They were really happy with management. And under the impression, me personally, from what I've heard from friends and, my inside sources, is that, people were much happier with the direction of Xbox Game Studios and even at 343 after Phil Spencer took over. And these kind of state the opposite, which is, why I kind of think like, okay, maybe these are just disgruntled employees. But there are some really good points to be made here. Contractual labor, it's part of Microsoft. That's probably not going to change anytime soon, but I agree with what they're saying here. A lot of other companies like Rockstar or even Naughty Dog, it's more full-time employees that work there. A lot smaller studio, like Naughty Dog, is much smaller from what Glassdoor says than 343. And, maybe that's a better thing. Bigger is not always better. Rockstar is huge. Rockstar is like 1,000+ people, I believe. So that is a totally different story. But some of these things like communication, that's obviously key. And in any relationship, being a married man now for 7 years, any kind of relationship, friendships, marriage, you're working on projects, businesses, any kind of relationship, communication is the number one factor in being successful in that. And, I do see sometimes maybe not as good communication from 343. We saw it for a while with MCC and Halo 5, and it's totally turned around, in my opinion, since then. we've seen a much higher focus on being more transparent in the last couple years, while also building more communication with the community and really taking community feedback into the production of these Halo games. We've seen it with MCC on PC. We've seen it so far with Infinite. And I have faith in that, and I have faith that that's translated as well to the studio itself, but who is to know? I don't work there. Now, when talking about the Slipspace engine, a lot of people who have worked there have been citing how it's an old code base and how it's basically held together by duct tape and things like that, and that might be true, honestly, because I was under the impression that Slipspace was a whole new engine, built from the ground up for Halo. Maybe I was naive to think that because I don't know much about game design, honestly. I'm not a game designer. So I thought Slipspace was a whole new engine, and I saw it pointed out that it isn't. It is still the old Blam engine, just reworked with some, code base, is still there from the original engine, because then I guess it would lose its Halo feel. And I understand why they kept that. And if you guys don't believe me, I will post right here a excerpt from the 343 social stream back in 2019, I believe, or 2018, when they did a basically Q&A about Halo Infinite.
Questions about the Slipspace engine, just in general, is it carrying forward anything pre-existing from the prior games, or was it a complete from scratch rebuild?
Yeah, there's still some foundations. It wasn't a complete and total rebuild. It was a teardown of certain systems that didn't allow us to kind of scale out to the places that we wanted to be. But there's definitely still code and foundation that came from, but it's for an engineer who was on 5, but not on, and then they came and saw this would be a pretty foreign system, set of systems. So
gotcha.
One of the things we do though is we like to take the existing kind of stuff that we've built for Halo 5, and we like to bring it online inside of Slipspace and all the new technology that we've built, so that we can ensure that we're kind of building things and that we aren't just starting over from scratch, where it's like, I think the fear that a lot of people have at times is that it's not going to feel anything like a Halo game, and we definitely want to make sure that's not the case. So we kind of bring stuff online, and we kind of iterate, and we make sure that our experiences kind of evolve and kind of work from that technology evolution versus kind of just starting completely off in some scratch place.
So as you guys can see, that basically confirms it's still the old engine, just reworked. And there were rumors too that 343 back in the day had actually went and used Unreal Engine 4 for Halo Infinite, because they really had ambitious hopes for this game, wanted to really increase the scale, and they couldn't pull it off with Unreal Engine 4. So then they went back, had their engineers really rework the Blam engine into the Slipspace. And the main focus of Slipspace, after feedback from the team at 343 after Halo 5, was to be able to iterate much quicker and make changes much quicker. And that was one of the focuses of the Slipspace engine. So they definitely took that feedback into effect. And this seems like people are still not happy with Slipspace, even after 343 has said that it's really allowed them to really streamline the process. So maybe too little, too late for some of these people. We don't know how long they've been working with the Slipspace engine. We know we had the E3 2018 demo, and we don't know when they switched over to this new engine. But you would think with a 5-year development cycle, building this new engine had to take quite a big amount of time, maybe 2 to 3 years. And we know a Halo game has a 3-year cycle, and on top of that, this is an open world Halo and a platform, let alone a game. So maybe the ambition for 343 hasn't been fully realized yet for Infinite, and that's why I worry just a little bit. But a lot of people also complaining about crunch time, things like that. That is a part of game design, unfortunately. Not saying I agree with it. It really sucks to be working, almost 100 hours a week, not being able to see your family and stuff. But that is a part of game design, and it seems maybe 343 was behind after basically going back twice on the development of Halo Infinite. Because there was also the rumors from Alana Pierce that said that Halo Infinite was already supposed to come out but they really rehashed the story after Halo 5's disappointing story from the fan base, and they went back and, basically reworked that story. So between the switch of engines between Unreal and of the Slipspace engine and then reworking the story, it seems that Infinite might be in some sort of development hell. Who knows? On top of that, I do believe in the Unreal Engine 4 stories because 343 has been working with Unreal Engine 4 for MCC. I see no reason to be working with that. And, why Unreal Engine out of nowhere if they weren't working with it for Infinite? So I do kind of buy into that rumor a little bit, but there is no way to tell, guys. Now on Indeed.com, slightly higher reviews for 343, but only 8 reviews. There was about 30 something on Glassdoor. So 4.0 overall for 343, and they are kind of older. There is one newer one from April 3rd of 2020, and it was a 4-star review. It says, you take each day one step at a time, whether or not there's progress to be had. Sometimes there's nothing to do. Sometimes there's an overwhelming amount of things to do. That's all they said. So take that for what it is worth. Another one from April 2nd of 2019 was a 4.0. And they said, I worked at 343 Industries through a contracting agency for a managed service position, perpetual contract. For the most part, company was enjoyable to work with, and I felt that my work was valued and regarded. I left the company to pursue a better position for my career growth at another agency because there really wasn't much opportunity to grow in the particular role that I had. I understand that such opportunities are limited by the contract structures that Microsoft keeps between game studios and the agencies. The pros were fun studio events, frequent studio play testing opportunities, cons, limited options, and contract positions. Another one was 4.0 from May 28 of 2018. Working at 343 was an extremely fulfilling experience. Every day was fast-paced, getting work done and implementing features in the game industry that are emulated today. The culture there is one of making the highest quality game possible and delivering to the fans the things that they desire, which is nice. Lots of back and forth and positive, but sometimes heated discussions around what features work and what don't work. Like any high-level position and company at the forefront of their industry, it's a tough job but highly fulfilling. Highly recommend working there and wish anyone and everyone who does the best of luck moving forward. Pros: free coffee, snacks, and drinks. Cons: as a contractor, didn't get the same benefits as a full-time employee. Now this one was a 5.0 rating back in December of 2016, so a little bit after Halo 5's launch and about a year after Halo 5's launch. They gave a 5.0 rating, but their title says strong direction, weak leadership. Working here is an immense pleasure, as long as you do not get overly drawn into the leadership and corporate structure of the parent company, Microsoft. It is a relaxed but crunch-heavy, passionate team and really should be pursued if you share their passion. And that is absolutely true about 343. They are passionate about Halo. Contrary to what some fans believe, they do care about the franchise. Now I wanted to point out this tweet from the Narrative Experience Director for Halo Infinite, Dan Chozik. I believe his name is pronounced. So he actually replied to a fan who was basically, just like, dude, all I've experienced since 343 took over were lies. All this excitement and stuff. The game textures look crappy. Worse lighting effects on your new engine. 5 years of waiting for this, blah, blah, blah. They went off on a rant basically and tagged a bunch of 343 employees. And Dan decided to respond. He said, I've been in your shoes. I know what it's like to have expectations built and feel let down. I want you to know your voice matters and is heard. You're not falling on deaf ears. I always want to live up to the legacy that Bungie pioneered. I personally care a lot about honoring that, and I honestly feel that's genuinely true. Honestly, I'm torn because I really do believe Infinite can still be a great game. Halo 2 is my favorite Halo, my second favorite game of all time, and it was notorious for its development cycle and how bad it was and how they had to scrap everything and really put it all together fairly quickly. So I still have faith that Infinite can be a great game, but I am still worried nonetheless after hearing all of this. You'd be crazy not to. I mean, we've seen the results from the gameplay trailer. The graphics are disappointing from a next-gen Halo. Graphics aren't everything to me though, and maybe we've been spoiled with Halo 4 and 5 really providing and really pushing the series forward in the graphics department. Maybe not so much Halo 5, but Halo 4 really wowed us, and I've never ever really been wowed by Halo's graphics besides the original. Like Halo 3 on the 360 still didn't wow me. Like, it was a great looking game. The art style was phenomenal. Same thing with Reach. I love the art style and the direction they went, but it never wowed me. It was never like a Gears. Gears wowed me with its graphics when that came out with Unreal Engine. So, it's different. Halo 4 really pushed the boundaries of the 360. It looked like a next-gen title on an old piece of hardware, and Halo Infinite doesn't look like a next-gen title on the new piece of hardware. So I get where people are coming from with that, and I agree, the graphics, there leaves a lot to be desired, but I have all the faith in the world that it will get better before launch, because we do know it's an old build. We don't know how old. I don't know why people keep putting out there, it's from January, it's from a year ago, nobody knows how old it is. We got to stop making that kind of stuff up. We do know it's old. 343's come out and said that. So I do think in the next few months the game will get better. And with the ray tracing patch that will come post-launch, it will get even better looking. That ray tracing makes a huge difference, guys. Digital Foundry did a video on this if you guys want to go see. I'll probably put a bunch of links down in the description for all my sources, including the Digital Foundry link. And they really show the difference. And Metro Exodus has great ray tracing between non-ray traced scenes and ray traced scenes, and they do basically reiterate that Halo Infinite probably will look a lot better with the ray tracing, because Infinite has a day-night cycle on the ring, and it's real-time lighting. It's not stuff that is baked into the textures like most Halo games where they're very linear and you could really just put that kind of stuff into the textures. Halo Infinite is a live game all the time, so I get that. And like I said, I still have hope for the series. I still have hope for Infinite. I really do think 343 is taking our feedback and really listening to the fan base for the most part. Not everybody can be pleased. People don't want Sprint. People didn't want, open world Halo. Some people didn't want that. I personally did, so I'm happy. I'm a happy camper. But, as Halo fans, we'll never all be pleased. It's such a big fan base. You cannot please everybody. You just can't. I, for one, am not on the classic versus mobility, blah, 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 all that crap. I just want a new Halo game, and I want it to be good. And that's the number one thing that Infinite needs, in my opinion. It needs to be a full game at launch. Cannot be missing features like Halo 5. We can't be missing Forge, Theater, things like that. We can't be missing multiplayer modes. So that is my number one hope for Infinite, that it launches with all the content that we expect out of a fully packaged Halo game, and then you add from there. The graphics, maybe they're not going to get much better before launch. And if it doesn't, who cares? I'm more on the side of gameplay anyways. Gameplay trumps graphics to me, and Halo Infinite's gameplay looks extremely fun. That good old 30 seconds of fun that Bungie always talked about, it looks like it has that, and I am all for it. Now, for the graphics department, yeah, I would like to see them improve though. It would be nice. I'd be crazy to say, yeah, I don't want the game to look better. But it doesn't have much weight to me as does the gameplay. Now, after launch, we know Infinite is going to be a platform for the next 10 years of Halo. Who's to say we don't get patches that introduce new textures, better lighting, better whatever, besides just the RTX patch? Infinite can look better over time. It is definitely possible. And if you're playing on newer hardware like a PC or the Xbox Series X, maybe we get exclusive patches, just like the Xbox One X has, where you get better textures compared to the regular Xbox One. That's happened before, it could happen again, I have faith in it, and that's really what I wanted to talk about in this video. I know this is a long video, I am sorry, but it is a really good discussion point. So if you guys have stuck around this long, God bless you, because it is a long video, and I apologize, but it is something that I really feel needed to be said, and I hope you guys enjoyed this discussion. I will be in the comments section down below trying to answer everything that I can. Please, let's keep it civil, alright? No name calling, none of that stuff. Let's have a discussion. I don't mind having a discussion at all, and I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Leave a like if you did, and subscribe if you're new here if you want to stay up to date on all the latest happenings in the world of Halo. I hope to catch you guys on either a previous video of mine or a future one. And until that time comes, I'm your boy Patman, and I'm out.